It was my final semester in undergraduate years. I had just gotten an assistant coaching job at Montclair State. I had a lot going on in my life. I didn't raise my hand in class. I was like, there's no way I can do that. And then you came to me individually, and you were like, Ash, I think this will be really good for you. Will you join this class? And then I took the class. I realized going into logging onto the class, this is my first day with it. I'm like, this isn't for me. This is about anxiety. I don't have any anxieties. Yeah, I'm perfectly fine. And then after taking the first class, my mind was completely blown. I realized that I actually do have anxieties in my life. I kind of realized that anxiety, I didn't even really understand what anxiety was. Anxiety isn't something that we really talk about as a nation. So I was a two-sport athlete in high school, very good at soccer, but even better at lacrosse. And it's pretty known, especially when I was back in high school, girls lacrosse was becoming a bigger and bigger sport, and there was a lot of money being thrown into it. So it was pretty clear that I could go pretty much to a college of my choice, and for a full ride. I was getting money for it, college paid for, yeah, anywhere I wanted, but it wasn't my wanting true love soccer. So I was pushed a lot to call different lacrosse coaches and go to all of these lacrosse clinics and tournaments, and I wanted nothing to do with that, and it was starting to take a toll on me. But my parents wanted that, my friends wanted that, coaches, everyone wanted me to go lacrosse, and it was starting to become a very big issue in my life. I was starting to lose sleep. I wasn't eating right. I stopped working out as much because I didn't want anything to do with lacrosse, and I knew that all of these people that I had been spending my whole life trying to please, my coaches, my parents, friends, everyone whose opinions I cared about, wanted me to do this one thing, and my heart wanted me to do the other. It was really hard for me to deal with, and I didn't have the coping mechanisms to deal with that. I ended up having a mental breakdown. My parents realized what I was going through, and it's great that I have the amazing parents that I have and the coaches and the support system that I have. They've realized what all of the pressures of playing lacrosse were putting on me, and they were like, hey, if you want to quit that, you can play soccer. It's all good. So I was able to go to Montclair State. I was able to play soccer. It all worked out in the end, but the mental breakdown had to come before that. I didn't know that this was because of the anxieties that I was feeling because of that. But that's what I learned from your class. Those were my anxieties in high school. And then, of course, you have to factor in, I still had to be a great student on top of being this athlete who was trying to figure out where I was going to be playing in college, what sport I was going to be playing, where I was going to be playing, if I was going to get money, if I was going to go Division I or Division III, because that was a whole issue too. I was always a great soccer player. Everyone expected me to go Division I, but I wanted to go Division III where I could play all 4 years because I wanted to play my last 4 years. So that was a whole anxiety issue as well. And then on top of that, I have to keep up with all of my classes, even though I'm training full time and playing on 3 different teams, taking up all of my free time to be able to get noticed by colleges. And then I got into college, committed to Montclair State, and it was all awesome. I was expected to be one of the top freshman recruits, and then all of a sudden the season starts and I'm the starting center midfielder as a freshman, which I'm sure Dr. Gubach is a huge role to fill, especially as a freshman, for a soccer team. So a lot of anxieties came with that. Just me trying to fulfill this huge role that my teammates and my coach expected of me. And then on top of that, I'm taking 15 credits, college credit courses that they were difficult. It was a lot different than high school where you could kind of coast by, and as long as you were doing your homework, you were getting the grades that you needed. College, we needed to maintain a certain grade. And yeah, and on top of that, I was filling this huge role in soccer. We were practicing every day of the week, which was different for me. Practices were really hard. games were exhausting. I played every minute of every game freshman year, so I was exhausted. I was trying to keep up with my classes, and with that came a lot of anxieties. And yeah, they were hard to cope with a lot of the time. I was always the girl who was really good at sports, and with that came a lot of personal expectations, and also I perceived a lot of other people's expectations as well. So my personal expectation, I had to be the best of the best. And then I started perceiving other people's opinions of me. I started thinking that my parents expected certain things of me, that my coaches expected certain things of me. So for example, I thought that my parents wanted me to play lacrosse in college. I perceived that they were never telling me, hey, Ashley, you need to play lacrosse in college. Like, this is the only way that you can go to college. You have to do this. You have to play lacrosse. You can't play soccer. It was just how I started perceiving things. And a lot of pressures and anxieties came with that. They allowed me to pick soccer. They were like, yep, go play soccer. That's your one true love, clearly. That's what's going to make you happy. That's awesome. And then my new internal anxiety happened because I thought to myself, well, if they were so dead set on me playing lacrosse and getting all of this money for lacrosse and going so big in lacrosse, they're going to expect the same for me in soccer. And that's just not going to happen. Like, there's no way I'm playing at the equivalent of a college soccer team as I would have been with lacrosse. And on top of that, I wanted to play all 4 years. I didn't want to go to a Division I school where I could get money and I would have to sit at the bench for the first 2 years. That wasn't what I wanted. So there was a big internal struggle for me, whether or not I wanted to go Division I, that I perceived everyone expecting me to go to, or Division III. I don't think we're doing a great job of actually giving techniques as to how to deal with these anxieties. So it's just like, oh yeah, you're anxious right now. Kind of go deal with that. But in this class, I think it's so great because Dr. Gubach gives you different techniques to deal with these anxieties that you're feeling. Not only is she helping you become more aware of your personal anxieties, she's also giving you the techniques that you need to overcome them or to deal with them. Dr. Gubach's technique apart is that she gives you so many different ways to cope with your anxieties. There's so many strategies that she gives you in her classes that you can use. So for me, let's say she gave 5 strategies, I took away 2 of them. So for me, it's so helpful. Dr. Gubach's class is so helpful because of how quickly that it can all happen, how quickly that she can really help you cope with your anxieties. So typically you have to go through when you're getting therapy and you're dealing with other people helping you with anxieties. It's a long-term thing that you're dealing with. It's a long-term, you have to go to therapy X amount of days for a bunch of weeks. Dr. Gubach can help you immediately. She helped me within 1 class. I learned 2 coping strategies that I could use to help myself in the short run, and it eventually became long-term effects for me in coping with my anxieties. So just the speed of the class and how quickly she can help you overcome a short-term goal and eventually lead that into long-term goals with coping with your anxieties is amazing. She kind of got me into her class when I was just finishing up my undergraduate year at Montclair State. I just gotten the assistant coaching job at Montclair State for their women's soccer team. And I was also moving on to my 5th year of college, which was my master's or my graduate year. And that year I would be student teaching for the first time. So I was becoming a teacher on top of coaching for the first time ever. So there were a lot of anxieties that I had to deal with all of that. And when I'm anxious, I pretty much only fixate on those anxieties, and that can really take away from your coaching of your players. And when you're educating your students, if you're not fully focused on either the field that you're coaching on or within the gymnasium, you're not giving your students or your players everything that you can give them, and that's what they deserve. And by taking the techniques that Dr. Gubach taught me, it helped me kind of leave everything aside when I was coaching and teaching and just focus on that and just cope with the anxieties in a better way. I now have a routine that I go through, and it helps me deal with the anxieties and leave everything out the door when I go and I'm coaching and I'm teaching and I'm trying to educate my players and students on what I need to educate them for the day. Routines that I go through every morning, the morning ones typically only take me 5 minutes. I wake up right away in the morning. I go through my routine, and then I go throughout my day. I leave everything out the door when I'm trying to coach and I teach. Like I said, it's 5 minutes in the morning, and then my routine at night is a little bit more lengthy. I'd say about 15 to 20, just because I need the nighttime to kind of decompress and get myself ready to go to bed, because we all know how powerful a great night of sleep is. And I use my techniques that I've learned from Dr. Gubach to create that routine that I have created now for my nighttime. So it's about 25 minutes max in my whole day, and it just makes me a lot less anxious and helps me focus more on what I need to do when I'm coaching and I'm teaching. What you really learn from Dr. Gubach is it's not necessarily eliminating anxieties. We're never going to do that in this world. Everything creates anxieties for different people. Different things might cause someone else to be anxious, whereas another thing might cause another person to be anxious. What's important is being able to cope with those anxieties, and also on top of that, realize that you're becoming anxious. I talked about it before. For most of my life, I didn't even know that I was having anxieties. I just thought I was sad or something bad was happening to me right now. I didn't even realize that I was becoming anxious. And because I didn't realize that I was anxious, there was no way that I could even help myself because I didn't know. And now, after Dr. Gubach's class, I now am able to realize when I'm becoming more and more anxious. And I also now have the techniques to cope with that anxiety. So I'm going to say thank you to Dr. Gubach for everything you've done for me, whether it was in class or especially the anxiety class that you kind of pushed myself into. I never would have done it without you pushing me into it and pretty much forcing me to do it. I really was upset with you at the time, but I appreciate it so much now. And for all my athletes out there, I know we're supposed to be the tough people and the people that are supposed to be able to handle everything that's thrown at us. The pressures of playing a sport, especially at a high level, and to not only be able to play that sport, but to also keep our grades up and deal with becoming a great athlete and a great academic student.